Deadliest catch Zack Larson beautifully eulogizes Nick McGlashan. The deckhand Wild Bill chose over own son. Deadliest catch fans are still reeling from the recent death of Nick McGlashan, a member of Wild Bill's team. Nick had some big emotional stories on the Discovery show, and it seemed that he had some issues with Wild Bill's son, Zack Larson. What was their history, and what did Zack say in his eulogy? Sometimes life gets complicated, and then tragedy strikes. The late Deadliest catch deckhand Nick McGlashan worked for Zack Larson's father, Captain Wild Bill Wachowski, on the F/V Summer Bay. A few seasons back, Fox reported that on the show, it looked like Nick McGlashan was dying of cancer. Turns out, Wild Bill and the rest of the show's viewers discovered the deckhand was a full-blown junkie. He was addicted to heroin and meth, along with being a heavy alcoholic. However, Wild Bill stood by Nick and helped get him help. Nick went into treatment and recovery and returned to the boat. When things settled down, Wild Bill jokingly called himself Mild Bill, as so many crew members were in recovery and reading the Bible. But the Deadliest catch storyline seemed to indicate that Zack could not understand why his father was willing to forgive and help out Nick. Meanwhile, it was no secret that Bill and his son had long-standing issues. One of those issues includes Zack using his mom's last name. Currently, Wild Bill and Zack have a great relationship. That was settled off camera. But something on camera had people wondering, and Zack included that in the eulogy. One thing that Zack clearly alluded to was something that was captured by the Deadliest catch cameras. While they both worked on the F/V Cape Caution under Captain Wild Bill, Zack Larson and Nick McGlashan had quite fight. This was over how to train a greenhorn. His beautifully written eulogy is a loving send-off. Currently, no other cast member has shared a eulogy. We can assume that they will wait to share their feelings for the Deadliest catch cameras. The new season should air sometime in early spring. Former Deadliest catch star Zack Larson wrote a beautiful message to his former crewmate Nick McGlashan. Although he is no longer on Discovery, he is still fishing. Currently, he is the captain of F/V Eleanor J, working for Captain Sean Dwyer's family. I've probably erased what I wanted to write 100 times already. It seems more real now that I'm putting my thoughts down. Nick brought new challenges for me to this industry. He made everything look effortless on deck. I was envious of that. I would give everything I had out there, and he would be laughing as waves came over the rail and splashing against him, yelling, "Look at my office, what a view," or stealing lines I came up with for the show, but delivering way better than I ever could. I always thought during our years on the Cape Caution and the ones to follow that he'd be running a boat in Alaska like our dads. Picturing us running boats and working together for the next 30 years always seemed like the reality and not a dream. My heart breaks for his 2 children, his parents, family, and friends. It's clear how many people Nick affected during his life. I've read an unbelievable amount of positive stories people have shared about him since his passing. He will be missed more than he will ever know. I hope we all remember the positives about our time with Nick and not forget the struggles he faced daily. Rest in peace, Nick. Right now, there is not a lot of information around Nick McGlashan's cause of death. Times has reported that he died at the downtown Nashville Holiday Inn. They indicated that he may have fallen back to previous habits, but as there is no toxicology report, it is best to wait for the official word. Meanwhile, Deadliest catch fans can soak in the loving words from someone who knew and worked with Nick McGlashan. Georgia Macchiatallo has several decades of writing experience, including travel writing, tech writing, art history analysis, and now entertainment writing. She loves to share the latest news on rom-coms and mysteries. Deadliest Catch. Zack Larson beautifully eulogizes Nick McGlashan. The decade Wild Bill chose over own son. The Deadliest Catch television series has long been a gripping chronicle of the unforgiving nature of the Bering Sea. A world where men are made of grit and determination, where friendships and rivalries are forged in the salt of the sea and the heartbeats of the crew. Over the years, the show has brought viewers into the world of crab fishing, and along with it, the stories of the men and women who make it all happen, often under conditions that are both perilous and unpredictable. Among those men was Nick McGlashan, a deckhand whose journey became as much about resilience and redemption as it did about fishing. Nick's sudden passing in 2020 shocked the Deadliest Catch community, and it was a loss that reverberated across. Many in the community, both on and off the screen, paid tribute to the larger-than-life figure he had become. However, one tribute stood out from the rest: the heartfelt eulogy delivered by Zack Larson, a fellow crew member on the F/V Summer Bay, and one of the closest to Nick in the years leading up to his passing. Zack Larson, known for his quiet strength and dedication, had witnessed firsthand the profound impact Nick McGlashan had not only on the show, but on the people around him. Their bond ran deep, and when Zack stood before a gathering of friends, family, and fellow fishermen to eulogize his friend, it was clear that this was more than just a tribute. It was a celebration of a life lived with immense complexity, challenges, and a surprising amount of love. Zack's eulogy, delivered with a voice heavy with emotion, painted a picture of Nick McGlashan not just as a talented deckhand, but as a symbol of perseverance, someone who had navigated the darkest corners of life only to find light in unexpected places. The words resonated not just with the people who knew Nick, but with anyone who had watched the show and come to know the man behind the camera. A deckhand with a hearty Alaskan crab fishing world is a tough one, and the crews that brave the waters of the Bering Sea are made up of men who are no strangers to hardship. But Nick McGlashan's story was a unique one, filled with both heartache and hope. He was not just a skilled deckhand, but someone who carried an emotional weight that many could relate to but few could understand. In Zack's eulogy, he painted Nick as a man who, despite his struggles, never gave up on the things that mattered most. Nick's battle with addiction was well known, and it had been an ongoing struggle. But what often got lost in the stories of his troubled past was the undeniable strength that he showed in facing his demons. Zack talked about how Nick never let those struggles define him, even when they came close to destroying him. There was a certain beauty in Nick's resilience, a resilience that inspired those around him to keep fighting, just as he did. Zack was particularly moved by how Nick had turned his life around, finding a balance between the grueling work on the sea and his personal redemption. It was this very battle that made Nick's presence on the show so compelling. He wasn't just a fisherman. He was a man trying to make sense of his life, trying to overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. And in this, he had an undeniable effect on his crewmates. Zack recalled how Nick's presence on the Summer Bay was like a beacon of light. His infectious laugh, his quick wit, and his sense of humor were vital to maintaining morale during the long, hard days on the water. But beyond the jokes and camaraderie, Nick's contributions to the crew were indispensable. He was a force on deck, a skilled hand who worked tirelessly alongside his teammates. And it was this work ethic that Zack most admired. The unlikely bond with Wild Bill, perhaps one of the most profound aspects of Nick's journey on Deadliest Catch, was his relationship with Captain Wild Bill Wachowski. Known for his gruff demeanor and no-nonsense leadership, Wild Bill's decision to bring Nick onto his crew was a pivotal moment in both men's lives. Zack made it clear in his eulogy that Wild Bill had a remarkable ability to see potential in people, even when others might have written them off. In the case of Nick, Wild Bill saw more than just a troubled past. He saw a man capable of greatness. Zack spoke of how Wild Bill's trust in Nick wasn't just professional, it was personal. He told the gathered crowd that Wild Bill had made a choice many might not have understood at the time. Wild Bill, in a way, had chosen Nick over his own son, Zack Larson himself. This wasn't to say Wild Bill didn't love his biological son, but rather that he saw in Nick something special, something that made him willing to put faith in the troubled young man, even when others questioned his decision. It was a decision that paid off in spades. Nick flourished under Wild Bill's mentorship, and the bond between the two grew over time. Zack emphasized how that choice, the choice to bring Nick aboard, to invest in him despite his baggage, had a lasting impact on both men's lives. It was a testament to Wild Bill's character, as well as to Nick's own drive to prove he was more than the mistakes of his past. Zack's words reflected the deep gratitude he had for Wild Bill's decision, even though it had put him in a difficult position. Zack had always been close to Wild Bill, and at one point, he was Wild Bill's choice as the first deckhand on the Summer Bay. But when Nick entered the picture, that bond shifted, and Zack found himself competing for his mentor's attention and approval. It could have bred resentment, but instead, Zack spoke about how it only made him respect Nick more. In many ways, it pushed Zack to improve, to work harder, and be better.